Good morning, y'all. So we are here and ready to rodeo. How are y'all? Good. I was going to suggest that we kind of do an inventory first and just go through our open items, kind of give you an overview of where we are. And I think that we're waiting for responses and/or counter proposals on a number of things from y'all's side. So you want to just go through the list to start out with?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
This was from your email. That's where we're gonna start right there. We got something else.
I'll just go in order
Okay,
from,
cool.
I've got like a tracking spreadsheet I'm running
Cool.
right now.
All right.
So I think Article 2, well, we have definitions, which we'll do last. Have we identified any definitions that we need to fix so far?
I think internally we're still reviewing those.
Yeah. So I don't think we have any that we need to discuss. You've got our list, right?
No, we
No,
have their definitions.
no, yeah,
We
we
have
sent,
their definitions from the original submittal.
yeah, we sent you guys ours. I think
Yeah.
the only thing I can think of off the top of my head where we need a definition on is, under, the sick leave, proposal y'all sent. Just what the definition of a, workday is.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the initial proposal we sent had definitions of the workday,
Right.
and that was taken out. So, but other than that, I think that's the only thing holding that
All right.
article up.
Good. That's helpful. We got that noted. And then authority and term, I think that's just waiting on resolution of right now, we're talking about making a 4-year deal. Anything else in that article is otherwise good to go, right?
Yeah, I mean, for now, I think that's one of the final things we'll hammer down.
Right. Maintenance of standards, tell me where we are on that.
So I sent last meeting, maintenance of standards article. I can resend it.
Okay, that sounds good. Do we have a counter on that?
So I sent one initially, you guys countered,
Okay.
looked at it. I have a counter, I guess you can
Okay.
say.
Mighty good. I got
I
that
sent
noted.
it, like I said, I sent it last meeting. If y'all don't have it, I can send it again real quick. And there's been a lot of back and forth, so
You bet.
some things are shuffling around a little bit, but I'll just, Jan, I'll just resend you exactly.
I'm not finding it. That was the one
That's
I
good.
had noted we were still waiting on.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's helpful because I was lost on that one.
Just email it to you.
Okay.
And then, I think work hours, overtime, staffing, those are all kind of connected into what we went over in our committee discussion last week. And I think we're ready to move forward on those. They kind of all go together. And so we'll be putting those together kind of in a package. We spent a little bit of time this morning talking through getting that done. At our next caucus, we will get that put together. So I'm just going to write down, that's Article 8.
So we've come up with on the work hours and overtime.
Okay,
Thought that's what we got out of the subcommittee was we would work on something. So we have that.
good.
The reason I haven't sent it yet, I guess the biggest question was, I think there was some discussion in the subcommittee meeting about sick leave in particular, if that was as big of an issue as the city assumes it is, I guess. If it's not the issue that we're thinking it is, is it easier just to keep it the way we currently operate?
Yeah, the city is committed to sick leave not being productive time for FLSA.
Okay.
And it's somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 on an annual basis, as I understand it, so.
Have you guys seen the numbers? Like, do you mind if we take a look at that, or I'm just trying to figure out like how we came to that number.
Sure, I understand that. We will,
Okay.
we've got the data and,
Eh.
you know, we're, like we said before, all the data we've got is
Yeah.
all public and it's yours, so.
Yeah, and I think that just helps us when we go to the members. But
You
like,
bet.
look, we've seen it. It is
Yeah.
what it is.
I just saw that information this morning internally from the finance group. Was it finance or payroll? HR.
And like I said, I think we've kind of all been in agreement that, on the sick leave thing, I'm just trying to get info to convey the message as
understand.
well as I can to the members, because I know that's going to be
We
a
understand.
big cause of concern for them, so.
Okay, and so then, where are we on Article 10, certification and incentive?
So I think last meeting there was a mention of, there was an update from the city, just kind of waiting to see that.
Okay, that's exactly the way I remembered that, so we will have that one today, if not at our next get-together. Where are we on, overtime is it's in the package that goes with staffing and work hours and so forth and so on.
Yep.
Article 12, where are we on Article 12?
I think sick leave's fine, except for the counter you guys gave. Like I said, just waiting on a definition of what a workday is considered. Because
Gotcha.
that changes that whole article.
And is workday going to be 12 hours? Anything else? Do we need to define it for, is it 8 hours for your admin people?
If you're on a 40-hour week, it's 8 hours. If you're on 53,
So I think we're all in agreement that that's the way we get it defined, right? Is there anything else that would go in there? That's always the way it works, right? If you do a suspension on admin people, it's 8-hour days. And you do one for regular firefighters, it's 12-hour days. And that's the way leave is burned. And so those are the two contexts that the definition applies. right?
Okay.
Either leave burn and/or suspension time.
Okay. So it's basically, it's exactly how we're operating right now.
Right.
Okay.
It's just capturing current practice.
Okay.
Okay.
On the 40-hour personnel, anybody working a 10-hour day, 4 10s?
yes, sir, they are. Still, 8 hours of it's considered one workday, though, to get to 40 hours. So if somebody takes, say, a holiday, 8 hours of that 10 hours is the holiday, and then the other 2 hours, they'll usually pair up vacation time or whatever to get the full 10 hours off.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll process that one.
Okay.
Because it usually says 40-hour personnel will have the option of working an 8-hour or 10-hour workday. That gives you flexibility, so you're not tied to the 8-hour day.
Yeah, that's a good point. We
So
just
that-
need to
well,
make sure we don't create a problem when we don't intend
Yeah.
to do so. Because what we're trying to do is to capture current practice, and that's a part of it.
Yeah, so, in section B, it doesn't say work, it just says.
40-hour
three-
work week?
Well, 3 consecutive workdays, so I
Okay.
guess so. It's it's basically how we're doing it, just kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
and-
worded
and-
slightly differently.
Dispatch, they work a 24-hour shift, and it's 3 work days for them when they work one shift. 8 hours, there's 3 8-hour days and one shift. They're on a 40-hour work week as well, averaged out over 365 days.
So every one day they call in, every one shift they call in sick, they bring in a note, right? 'Cause
3
it's-
work days, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so, got it. Point of this article is to capture current progress. Got it.
Yeah, so far, I don't think we're changing anything other than the red lines that we already, I think, are pretty close. I think we're on the same page about the red lines on that sick leave article, right?
Yeah, so we want to in that article, secure what we currently have. Got it.
And 13, vacation, where are we on that one?
Like to have a discussion on it briefly today, but
You want to do that now?
you want to roll through what we're currently doing, and then we'll come to it.
Sure.
We're making progress on this list right now.
No
Getting
problem.
all my
Let's
notes.
do it. Okay, and then staffing, that's part of the group that I've got for 8, 11, and 14 all at once. Payroll deductions,
Oh yeah, I have again came up with I think a solution on that one. I'll
Okay.
send that to you.
all right. And I think we're waiting for a response on investigations and discipline. Do I have that right or wrong?
Yeah, have some discussion on investigations. I think the discipline matrix was good to go. And have some questions on the grievance one.
All right. Now, are you talking about grievances under 23?
Correct.
Okay.
Jan, I'm gonna send you the payroll one real quick. I think we made it work. What we were both trying to accomplish. Spreadsheet provided. And I guess if you guys are gonna go upstairs and talk about what I just sent you, the only other thing I put in there, I put in a new section for new employees, just so you guys have some context when you go up there. The idea behind that section is we may get in the middle of the year new fire department employees that want to join the association. The way the first section was written was we can't make any updates until like just once a year. So this just gave us hey, if we got 10 new employees in the middle of the year, we have the ability, if they want to sign up, they can do that part middle of the year. But other than that, it keeps that first section, like the bulk of the updates is once a year. It just has that little caveat if there's a new group of employees.
Okay.
So I just sent that to you. I just wanted to give you some context on
Good.
when you
That's
look at
perfect.
it.
That makes sense. All right, then we have our appointed positions on the appointed chief, and then funding obligations. We talked about that last time. I think that we responded to your concerns. Where are we on that one?
I think we're good on the way it's written.
Okay.
I think that one also ties into staffing a little bit, so.
Okay, all right. I'll make a note that, and I get what you're talking about there. All right.
Can we go back to sick leave? I just want to make sure, my recollection is you all had given us an edit on the sick leave document, and I don't think we've turned our edit back to them on sick leave since
believe
the
that's
last
right.
meeting.
So
Is that correct?
That's right.
I mean, you printed one out for us.
Oh, did I
never
gave
got
you-
an email.
Okay, is that what happened? Okay,
yeah, have
that's
the
why I
print-
can't find it in my
Right.
email. Okay.
Yeah, just have the printed version.
Okay, so you got our red lines after the 28th to the sick leave, and you're good with those, other than the work hours, our workday definition? Is that,
Yeah, I mean, I think what I was getting at was we
Okay.
just need a definition
okay,
somewhere on what a
okay,
workday is,
okay.
but
But those other red lines were fine? Is that-
yeah, I
okay.
think everything else is fine.
Good.
Okay.
All right, very helpful. Anything else we need to talk about? Anything else you need to work on your final resolutions before we break and get these things put together?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of seeing where we're at on sick leave usage would be helpful. Anything y'all have on certification pay would be helpful.
You'll have that today.
Let me look at my notes here of what we need. You guys think of anything? No, I mean, I think that's That's it for now,
Okay?
until
So,
we discuss.
I'm optimistic that we can put this jigsaw puzzle together. It's got a number of moving parts now. I think we have a satisfactory solution on the Kelly Day issue that'll be a part of that package. And I think we have an affordable staffing solution in the context of y'all's request to back down from a 5 to a 4-year labor agreement. We will be making the commitment that you reminded us about the other day with a counter proposal on personnel added in years 2, 3, and 4, committed to staffing apparatus, which was your key objective here. And so I think all these pieces are coming together, and we're going to be able to get things done. And I appreciate your attention to this and the committee meeting last week. I think it was very helpful. We had a good, productive discussion with the city manager today, and I think we're ready to go forward, so.
All right.
All right, thank you
you.
very much.
You want any clarification on anything?
We'll keep you posted on our progress. We have, I can figure out where I put it. You got it?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we pretty much have everything else written, ready to go.
We'll go ahead and sign it. Yeah, now that we've gone through the list, did you want to give us some feedback on vacation? We're signing the 15-day extension. I'll hand it to you, get your signature, we'll make copies for it.
Let me pull something up real quick.
Thank you, Chief.
Do you mind if we discuss this when we break real quick?
Sure, no, that's
Okay.
fine.
Can we hang on to this?
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Okay, so the question we had on vacation, let me pull it up real quick. So we proposed 9 days initially, vacation slots per day. Counter was, from the city, was back to 7, how we currently do it. I guess our thought process where we were at was looking at the current budget cycle, some of the proposals for administrative positions, the reasoning for the administrative positions, as stated in the budget, was the fire department's grown 30% over the last 9 years. The vacation slots have stayed the same over the last 9 years. Wouldn't that justification be the same for vacation spots?
They have not stayed the same. We just increased it to 7 this year across the board on vacation slots.
So it was 7 before, but the 7th one got blocked out if nobody bid it on the first process.
Correct, and we've opened that up for all slots this year. In addition to that, we took the battalion chiefs out of that process as well, which opened up more days.
Okay. So the math, again, if we do a 30% increase from where we're at before, it would still come up to about 8.5 position, 8.5 slots.
Understood, but
So-
when you go back and do the actuals, like I shared the other day, you've had on average 70 slots available on every shift. Once you've gone through and done the selection process. Now, this past year, I believe C shift had like 122 slots available. Now, the other option we can discuss filling them up all 5 and then move up all 6, move up all 7. If you want to do it that way, we can do it that way. What I don't want to do is overload our summer days off and our Christmas time off where we're paying a lot of overtime while we got slots available in September, January, February, March, which is usually the case.
Right.
So I'm open to do it either way. We can fill them up like everybody, we can't go to 6 until all 5 are filled up. Once we fill up all 6, we can go to 7 slots. If all 7s get filled up, we can go to 8. But I think you're gonna find we got plenty of extra slots available at this. And then open it up as needed going forward. You know, rather than filling it up like a swimming pool, you know, do it like we've been doing it in the past, where we went from 6 to 6.5 to 7, and then we took the battalion chiefs out of that process, which opened up more spots. I'm not looking to restrict I'm just looking to make it physically responsible for the city while giving you an opportunity to take off.
Yeah.
And I think, and frankly, if you go with 9, when you start increasing the people, who's to say that 9's not enough, but you're locked in at 9?
Yeah, I think, our proposal sets a minimum, so it could be increased. And again, I'm not, this isn't one of those things where it's going to kill the entire contract, right? I'm just trying to get thought process.
Well, once you look at it from another perspective and we can set trigger points or benchmarks to say, when you hit 15%, you only have, or 20% remaining, we look at going up another half slot or hitting these particular months before we hit these particular months. I mean, there's ways to do this without just saying everybody gets the summer off and nobody has to take January, February off, so.
Yeah. I don't think I want to get too into the weeds of it. I think this process has already been quite a bit. So, like I said, I was just curious on thought process there. I mean, like I said, I understand completely where you're coming from. I've seen what you're talking about. I just throwing it out there, thought process.
Well,
Because that's, the chief's pretty much nailed it, because if we say, yeah, we'll just go to 9, then what that means is you're just gonna be backfilling positions because everybody's gonna clump up on the prime days. That's the way it is everywhere,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, no, I mean,
You make a good point that since
we
this
have
is a staffing-driven contract and we're adding these new positions, we need to pay attention to the slots, maybe in year 2, 3, 4, whatever it is.
yeah, because what's going to happen is if we start increasing by 56 people, over the course of the contract, that's going to be another 30% roughly. I mean, we're talking about 60% growth with the same number of spots. I mean, like I said, I get it. Just trying to figure out a way to make it work without making it so convoluted. I mean, we've already been at this for 60 days. So
I think we did try to account for that a little bit, Brian, to give some flexibility for the growth with that language we proposed about additional vacation slots could be opened as needed based on the determination of the chief. So
Right, but-
I think hearing what you're saying, there would at least be some room to move or to add additional slots and change that number if needed.
Right, and not saying this chief's going to do it, but, I think it's been the theme of the entire contract is if there's gray area, the next person can just say, oh, you know what, we're not going to do it, unless it's in writing, right? So, but I totally get what you guys are saying. Like I said, for me, it was just understanding thought process, and I get it, so,
I think there is a difference in the way we pick vacation now, and it's a mindset thing. We have our annual vacation picking, which is going on as we speak. But used to you pick your slot, and then you filled in any other second choice and stuff like that. Now you see a lot of people, they make that first pick, and then they call them up. You want a second pick? No, I'm good. And they wait throughout the year, and as we get closer, you can go back and look at the vacation schedule. Those slots that were open at the initial pick are filled throughout the year.
So, yeah,
So
I actually just did that. We just started bidding on vacation last shift, and I picked like one day, and that's going to be it for the year, and I'll just see what opens up and try and get it. But, like I said, I understand where you guys are at. I mean,
Well, you can see the problem with that is if everybody does that and then you get down and say, well, it's August, I got to take some time off. Well, you had the opportunity to choose it in the beginning, but 100 of you waited until the end. Now what are we going to do? See what I'm saying?
yeah, no, I know. I mean, there's no.
well, that's a good reason there's no cap on it anymore, on the accrual. You know, as an adult, they need to make their vacation picks and utilize
You
their
nailed
time.
it right there. You said it. I didn't say it. You
No,
said
that's
it.
true.
They need to pick their days. So if they're in their last year and they've got extra vacation time and they were just going to wait and pick it on premium days and they're not available.
Right.
Well, they can't come to me and say, I have to take off because I've got extra time here.
No.
But that's not my fault, that was your fault. Like you said, your
Exactly.
words, you're a grown adult, you should have picked it from the beginning.
Yes, sir.
And so, while we have a balance of getting you your time off, we also owe the community services without just paying overtime all the time. So I think that's where this is, and I think if you want to look at benchmarks, or if you're good with the 7, we'll open up more as needed discussions. You know, for example, let's just say, for example, when you hit, 8 or 10%, like this year you had 70 slots. That sounds like a lot of slots, but there was 840 to begin with. On average, you had 70, and most of those 70s are in January, February. There are some Septembers in there, and there are some Marches in there, but those are your 2 primary months. So let's just say when you hit, 10%, we need to start looking at opening up another slot. I'm not opposed to that. What I'm opposed to is when you've got 122 slots, going back and open up another slot, because there's plenty there to pick from. So, if y'all want to plug in a benchmark, we can do that,
Yeah, the only benchmark I guess I've seen other cities do is just a percentage of people off per day, and then as staffing increases, that ends up moving it around a little bit.
But that takes away from our need of 4 firefighter
Right,
staffing.
right.
If you're just giving more people off, why are we doing 4 firefighter
Right.
staffing? Just to give people time off, or to get the 4 firefighter staffing?
Correct.
What's the driving point here?
Right, I understand. That's why we haven't brought that one up. So, yeah, I think we've got our questions answered on that one. Like I said, just trying to understand thought process, but I get it. So,
Glad we had that discussion. Thank y'all.
Hey, Brian, what articles are you forwarding to us today, this morning?
so I just sent the maintenance of standards again and payroll deduction.
I forwarded those to the team.
Okay.
That I have, like I said, I have work hours and overtime ready to go. I think the big thing I'm waiting to figure out is, again, I thought the intent of the subcommittee was to determine the actual issue with sick leave. I don't mind, like I said, changing how we currently operate, if I can justify it somehow to the membership. So,
Yeah.
Um,
We're going to provide you that data.
okay.
Cool.
And then, I don't think off the top of my head there's nothing else I can think of. Like I said, except cert pay is the only other thing we're kind of waiting on from the city that would need the chief probably, but.
Is there any specific questions on cert pay that y'all wanted to answer? Because I know we've had some discussions, but I want to make sure we answer yours instead of going back and forth. We answer your questions when we come back.
Yeah, let me pull up here.
Yeah, I think the primary separation there is just the philosophy. I think the philosophy or the mindset on the water rescue stuff
Yeah,
was the only thing that we really kind of have a different perspective on.
Water rescue and the administrative assignment pay.
Yeah, I think we had something else to propose there, but we haven't put that out there
That's
yet,
correct.
so we'll bring that back
Yeah, so
after
we
the
have
I just want to make
caucus.
sure
We
we
have
were
a counter
addressing the
on
ones they had, and I think we have.
Yeah, those were the only ones. I mean, I personally, I don't get the inspector part, but,
Why is that?
like I said, compared to other cities, the counter from the city, it is still not comparative to other cities. I understand the thought process behind it, and it does, I mean, it does make sense to me.
Okay.
Until I look at the other cities, and
Okay.
it's still on the lower side, but I understand the thought process.
Is it on the lower side or the certification, just for clarification?
The certification for inspectors,
Uh-huh.
basically. So a lot of the other cities I've seen have it broken down somewhat. And I'm trying to reconcile that in my own head because I get the way we hire people. They have to have all certifications
Gotcha.
ahead of time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm also trying to factor in pay comparison and whatnot, you know, to see what works.
So we're paying ours for certifications achieved through the commission. That's what we propose to you. Intermediate,
Yeah,
Advanced.
intermediate, advanced, master,
master,
correct.
right.
Yeah.
Same as a firefighter. We don't pay them to give them a firefighter certification when that's what they had to have to come to work. Same thing for the prevention folks. They have to have inspector license to be an inspector. But if they want to advance that certification, that's all we're saying. Let's treat the firefighters and the inspectors the same and pay them for those intermediate, advanced, and master certifications that they can achieve through additional, either formal or certification training.
I guess the only thing I'd like to look at on this one is currently the way it's set up is the inspectors get $100 a month. With the intermediate going down to 60, are we going to have any people that get a deduction? So they're going to go from 100 to 60. That'd be the only question I have regarding that layout.
Okay, I need to look at that and get clear.
I think there's probably going to be, I mean, because I think intermediate's 4 years or something like that. So we probably have a few under 4. I'd hate to see them lose it unless we, I don't know. I don't know if there's a way we can write that it's just for people hired after the effective date. Just on that section, like that may get kind of dicey, but
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
we'll review and have a discussion about it and kind of figure that part out.
We will too. We'll take another look at it.
Thanks for
Okay.
bringing that
Yeah.
up. We needed to know that. I never understood that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all.
But no worries.
We'll keep you posted on our progress.
Oh, sounds good. And like I said, if you guys have any questions on that stuff, just shoot me a text or email or something.
Joe, Brian, y'all ready? Yes, sir. So I wanted to hand y'all kind of an overview. So this is kind of our vision about trying to put this together as we're both trying to accomplish as much as we can of what the other side needs here. We had originally sought the 5-year agreement, and we recognize and respect the fact that going back to your members, you felt like a 4-year agreement was probably more consistent with what your members would expect and support. From the outset, it's been a key component of our proposal that we eliminate overtime paid on sick leave as productive time. We got hung up on the Kelly Day issue there, and that was what we talked about last week. We agree with no change in the current practice for Kelly Days in the context of this overall, set of give and take, if you will. Notice that you included that in your updated work hours proposal, and we're still looking through the way you've captured that, but it is our intention that those two items go hand in hand. Using the savings from that productive time is just one of the pieces to contribute toward the multi-million-dollar cost of 41 positions in suppression over the 4-year time period, and of course, the 8 admin positions in that first year. So that's the way we currently see this coming together and having value for both sides, and hopefully being a solution that can be supported by your members as we achieve that staffing level. specifically agreeing that those positions are committed to apparatus, which is one of your other concerns. You pointed out that, you know, our proposals originally had just talked about hiring additional positions as opposed to committing those to apparatus. We've included in the vacation scheduling issue the benchmark trigger for vacation scheduling to take into account department growth in the future, like we had talked about. And these go along with our funding loss flexibility language, which we've talked about, and I think we had a virtual agreement on that, even though that one's not signed off. So the loose ends that we still have, work hours, we're going to send you our revised article after we finish looking at your Kelly Day language. We're agreeing to the staff inspector's part. The chief really needs to keep the flexibility over setting the other schedules that are there. He's here. I wanted to have an opportunity, if it's necessary, if that's something that you feel strongly about, we need to understand what the logic is behind trying to tie down the scheduling for those other divisions instead of leaving them up to the chief's discretion as conditions change in the future. We have our certification and incentive pay article to send to you. Our only issue on payroll deductions is that we're not going to agree to a standalone pass-through. I'm not sure that if you're even asking for that. Whatever is in the association dues that y'all are giving to us, we're going to fund it. And we've looked through the process about the way that works. Currently, what happens is that there's actually a disbursement back to the association for each of the payroll cycles. So I think that works the way it's supposed to, and I think the article has captured that. We still want to hear back from you on investigations and discipline. I think I heard you say earlier the discipline matrix article is probably okay as is. On sick leave, the definition needs to be 12s and 8s, and your version said 12s and 10s. And so I'm not sure if there's any disconnect there, but I think that was just a misunderstanding.
They said, it said 24 and 10. And
24 and
yeah,
10,
it'll be
okay.
12 and 8.
Yeah, I don't think there was a misunderstanding on our end on that part. So basically, the way it's currently written right now is it's less than how we are currently operating. So we threw basically, when we proposed 2 consecutive shifts, we threw in some additional stuff in there, like if they call in sick around a other form of leave or whatever it may be, city holiday, etc., that kind of stuff. Threw that in there basically as a, hey, 2 consecutive shifts, if it happens to fall with one of these, and automatically requires a note. The way it's written right now is actually more restrictive than current city policy. So we would have to, if you guys are set on those work hours, we're going to have to cross out several things that were added in there.
Okay, so your focus is on the triggers for sick leave documentation in terms of being out on a work day.
And ultimately, I think that the point I conveyed the very first meeting was we make life and death decisions all the time. If somebody is feeling under the weather, you know, once in a blue moon kind of thing, the way this is written is we're going to end up, or how we currently operate, is we have to bring in a sick note if that occurs 2 times in the course of a year. We make life and death decisions all the time. I don't think going to the doctor for just not feeling well and getting a sick note is completely necessary. Like I said, at the end of the day, we're going to go get a sick note if that's what we need to get. I don't know what the cost is, you know, what the city pays on the back end for us going and getting a doctor's note. We thought that would be a good alternative to provide some sort of cost-saving measure to the city on the health insurance side. But if that's not, you know, where money wants to be saved, then we'll adjust it back to what city policy is.
We'll revisit that, because I think that there's some confusion there, because we were trying to square up the definition of days with the different ways that days work and leave burn and suspension time. And so we'll talk about that and see whether or not that's necessary or not, because I want
Yeah.
to make sure that we're focused just on the sick leave enforcement policy in the context of this definition, okay? So I hear where you're coming from. Tell me again what it is that you want to accomplish at the suppression level, and then we'll do it at the admin level.
Okay, yeah, from the initial proposal we sent was if you call in 2 consecutive shifts, bring in a sick note. Correct, yeah.
What we don't want to do is start getting confused on what a workday is. You get paid out per state law, statute, 12-hour workdays.
Right.
Is how we get to your 1,080, 8 hours to your 720. So if we start throwing out 10s and 24s and 12s and 8s, I'd rather stay consistent with our workdays and then change the parameters on when you need to bring a note in.
Okay, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, we can make that modification.
That's, yeah, I think that's where the confusion's coming
Okay.
from. And so are we, your original proposal was 2 consecutive shifts would
Correct.
result in the need to document your sick leave.
Correct.
Right? Are we opposed to that, Chief?
I'm not based upon the last paragraph where I can give reason where if I need to bring it
Yeah,
in.
which we had added to that.
Yeah, huh? No, it was,
Said 2.
our initial proposal was 2 consecutive shifts, so 2
2 or
24-hour
more.
shifts.
It was worded as 2 or more, yeah.
2 or more.
2 or more consecutive shifts is how it was
Yeah,
worded in your
correct,
initial
yeah,
proposal.
two or more consecutive shifts. And then, like I said, that's why we threw in the thing there. If you pair it with some sort of other leave, that 2 doesn't apply. I mean, you pair it with some other leave, you're bringing 1 in when you call in sick the first time. That's just try and provide a little for both sides.
And then how does it work on the admin people that are working 8s or 10s?
I mean, however you guys want to go about.
So you're not trying to even nail that, right?
No, I think the admin part, the way it was set up in policy,
Okay.
was working. I think it was the way the city policy was written wasn't necessarily designed for people on shift work. It was designed for people on a 40-hour week.
Yeah.
So all we were trying to do was clean it up so there's some sort of consideration for people on I guess an unconservative work cycle, I guess you can say.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so you're only looking to change A to 4 or more consecutive workdays. Correct, is that correct?
Yeah, I guess that'd be the answer with,
Okay.
And then I guess under the definition of workday, we would need,
For purposes of this article only is what we're going to do.
correct, yeah.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much. That's very helpful. So, we will go back and then revisit that sick leave
Yeah,
article.
We'll get that.
We'll revisit that sick leave article in order to get that resolved. The other things that I wanted to talk about
And
are.
I guess real quick, I guess
Sure.
a point got brought up here on that section 5A for changing it to 4 more consecutive workdays. Would that change, I guess, it'd be from 5, like that second part of that, would that go from, I guess we have to figure out a different number, 5 to a different number for,
About on the 40-hour work week?
no, on section A for the rotating 12-month period.
We'll get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
If we're adjusting one of the numbers, would
Right.
the other one bump out also?
Okay. So we will sort through that. The maintenance of standards article, your counter proposal, I don't think you intended to do this, and we were talking through it, and I wanted to talk to you about it before we respond to that. What I've always tried to do, and I think, Joe probably sees it the same way, but y'all can talk about that. The management rights article and the maintenance of standards article are kind of in balance, or in tension with each other. The paragraph, the sentence that you have in your maintenance of standards has some language in there about interfering with the operation of the department. And so the way I see that is that I have, on the one hand, you've given or recognized the chief's rights under management rights, but then that sentence means that the chief can't exercise his management rights unless he can prove to an arbitrator that leaving it the way it was interferes with the operation of the department, which takes away his management rights. Okay, so that's the only hangup we really have in that section. I don't think that's what you're trying to do. I don't think you're trying to say that the chief now has a new hurdle in exercising its management rights. We're not trying to change the maintenance of standards concept, that the things that are mandatory subjects of bargaining under existing policy end up having to stay the same and will stay the same under the contract. And so I don't really think that I don't think we're really butting heads with each other, but that's what our hangup was on that article. So if you'd revisit that, that's our only real problem with that article.
Okay, just those couple words right there. To interfere with the operation department.
That's correct.
Okay, we'll
And that's just based on the way that dispute would work if it turned into a grievance. I don't know, and again, I don't think we have any problem on payroll deductions. I don't think that y'all are asking for us to have a standalone PAC contribution that we're going to take out of the paycheck as a PAC contribution and send back to y'all as a PAC contribution. I think you're just asking us to take out union dues and send you the money.
basically, yeah, the way we're currently operating.
Okay.
So, and I
So I don't
think-
even think we have a dispute, we just need to figure out a way to solve that problem. The city's not gonna ever agree to get something from y'all that says PAC contribution and take it out and send it to that, for that purpose.
Right.
But taking your dues out and sending it to you, you do whatever's lawful with the money you get, that's none of our business. I'm sorry about this.
Or just any additional dollars. I think what we want to stay clear on, my understanding is, right now, it's a dollar amount that we're given that doesn't align with the percentage of the dues, and so people could be asking for more to be taken out above and beyond the dues that could be then going to the PAC. And so our goal is to stick with what we are going to pay, what the due schedule is, how y'all use that for any lawful purpose would be, up to you all. And then we just want to make clear, we're not agreeing to take out any additional payroll deduction for additional dollars just to support a PAC contribution. Does
Okay.
that make
So-
sense? But
yeah.
above and beyond the dues.
So we have, kind of like what was explained the first time, was we have a 501c3, and members can voluntarily contribute to that. And it's all sorts of different amounts that's coming out of that. There's other insurance policies and stuff.
Right, and they can. All we're saying is we're not taking that out of the payroll deduction side. For payroll deduction, we want to be paying straight dues and straight dues only.
Okay.
To streamline these varying amounts that we have had for the past several years that HR has been having to contend with. Because someone might decide to give, I guess, if they want to give more to the 501c3 or whatever, they're putting that on their form. And so then all the dollar amounts are varying for HR. So
Okay.
that's why we were trying to stick with just a dues schedule. Whatever the
Okay.
dues amount is, that's what we wanted to do for the payroll deduction.
Could it be, I guess, like I said, I'd hate to kill our nonprofit over something like this. Would it work where, I don't know, that there was two lines, I guess, on the paycheck? It'd be one was association dues and one was whatever the additional was. And then that way all they're doing is they're only changing that one line for dues once a year. The other thing, whatever they sign up for, it is what it is.
When you say they're only changing, but if they sign up for it, that would be a varying amount, right?
Well,
We're just talking about a constant amount for the year.
Or
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I'm
Two
trying to
amounts
clarify.
instead of one.
So, yeah, so I'm saying if it was split up like two, so all you'd be doing, like one line, would stay the same all year round, pretty much forever.
That's the dues.
No, that'd be if somebody wants to contribute
That's
to
the contribution amount you're
Right,
asking for.
if somebody wants to contribute to a nonprofit or whatever, and then one line would be how it currently is, like
The dues.
association dues. That's the only line that would change once a year, and it'd be the same for everybody. It'd be whatever, $1.72 or whatever it was.
Right.
1% of their base pay? Okay.
Yeah, and I think our goal is to eliminate any direct deduction that goes to additional funding to a PAC.
Okay.
That was some policy direction that the city manager received in years past from council members, and so that's why it remains an issue for us to some degree. If your dues, if a portion of the dues goes towards that, that's fine, that's what y'all get to do. But just having then varying amounts for everybody that are directly that's PAC contribution is the piece that we were trying to eliminate, if that makes sense, in terms of what we're looking to do. We're
Yeah.
trying to be consistent.
Yeah.
It's just the dues deduction.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's it.
I mean, it makes sense. I'm trying to figure out how we're gonna get this nonprofit thing figured out, so we're.
Let us talk about that. I think
Okay.
we both have a better understanding of what's going on here. And, you know, I think that you're familiar, historically in Irving, this was an issue at one time in the past where there was a PAC contribution and it got cut out, and that's what's, you know, that's what's the dynamic on this side of the table. So we'll go back and talk about that and see if we can accomplish that. We understand what you're trying to do, and if it's administratively feasible and we can do it, it's not changing all the time, then that may be a possibility, okay?
Okay.
All right. So that's our feedback on maintenance of standards. And the staffing article that we would prefer would include the Kelly Day. And again, we will go back and take a look at that and see if you've captured that the way that we're intending to do so. And the shift inspectors, are there objectives behind the other schedules that you'd wanted to specify? Because the chief wants to keep those within his prerogative as opposed to nailing those down for a 4-year time period.
So I'm trying to find the email I sent initially, but the initial proposal that spelled it all out was copied and pasted from a procedure. So that's all it was when we were talking about, and this kind of got brought up a couple meetings ago, talking about providing consistent work schedule for people. Having it spelled out does provide consistency. But let me see if I can find the email I sent with the explanation on that one.
Because I think you can see our concern, the chief's concern about having to lock it in for a 4-year period.
Well, there's also the caveat at the very end of that proposal that says on mutual consent that it can be changed.
Well, but that just means we have to bargain it or get your permission to do it. So that's not a chief's prerogative. That's tell us if you need to change it and we'll tell you whether or not you can change it.
Right, because we're trying to keep consistency with work schedules, right?
Right, but the procedure that exists today could be changed from time to time. We're not talking about changing it every week or every month or every 6 months. But, you know, a 4-year time period where you can't make schedule changes or adjustments is a management problem.
Well, I mean, they can change it through mutual consent, right? So I think, you know, I think where I'm coming from on that one is, and I could be wrong, but I thought the impression or the idea behind like a contract was to have stuff set, you know, black and white, trying to clean up some of the gray area. The way I'm seeing the contract right now is there's still a lot of gray area. And that would be one of them, but open the thoughts on that one.
Okay.
I think Lowell's expressed it. I basically want to be able to manage my people in administration without coming to the association and getting permission on whatever work schedule they're working. If we have a tornado come through here and I need them to work 5/8 instead of 4/10s, no, chief, we're not going to do it because we got a contract that says we work 4/10s. I don't want to go down that path on managing my people on what schedule they're going to work. And we've never done it that way. So you talk about copying and pasting and doing what we've done in the past. This is another one that we've done it this way in the past without having to go down this road of getting permission on changing schedules.
So we're making 2 significant moves to contract for the shift inspectors in accordance with your proposal and to lock in that Kelly Day structure as a part of the trade on sick leave not being a overtime threshold productive time credit. But the rest of the schedules, it seems like that, like many labor agreements don't lock in all the schedules in all the fire departments for all the labor agreements in Texas. Some of them lock in schedules, some of them lock in schedules subject to change or prior notice. You know, I don't know which ones are the most comparable. I haven't gone back and looked at this issue in the others that you use for your pay comparisons here, but I don't think that those other fire department bargaining agreements lock in their existing schedules. Understand your logic, and frankly, I think it's been to our mutual interest that you basically have used a lot of the contract provisions that come out of existing department policy. But it's the flexibility here for the chief to make adjustments and changes over time. We recognize the legitimacy of people want to have a schedule to where it's predictable and they know how to live their life and they can plan for the future and take care of childcare and all of their other responsibilities and secondary employment if they have it. I don't think that we are not open to something that doesn't, in other words, it doesn't change regularly or all the time or frequently or create, you know, that's why we agreed that it makes perfect sense that you don't have to go back to your members and say, well, your Kelly Day expectations are no longer legitimate. You know, locking those in is a totally legitimate ask. So we'd just like you to revisit this and see what we can do to leave the chief the flexibility that he needs on this article.
Okay, I mean, would there be a way to put some in there like in emergency situations? I mean, that it can be, you know, at the discretion of the chief?
I would rather have something in there that captures the party's intentions, that schedule changes are going to be driven by necessity, and, you know, I can talk to the chief about whether or not there's something that allows us to have some continuity behind what we're talking about. But I don't think there's a history in the department of these kinds of schedules changing on a regular or repeating basis.
In the words of Brian, what are we trying to fix? You know, we haven't had this problem. We're not fixing anything because it hasn't been a problem, so.
Well, I mean, we have had some guys that schedule has changed on them. I mean, it's not a lot of people, but there have been a few, so.
For what reasons? I mean, I've not done it just out of the blue.
I mean, I don't know what your reasoning or logic is behind
And,
it.
you know,
but-
5/8 is the normal work week here in the city of Irving. 4/10s is honestly a privilege to go to 4/10s to have the other day off. You know, but we've always allowed that to happen as long as you got your job done in the fire department. There's never been a reason just to change under my administration. Now, I know there's been some in previous ones, but not in my administration. You get your job done, we work with you on 5/8s or 4/10s. If you're in a position to correct behavior, it may be 5/8s. If you're there to do a 2 or 3 year stint, then you can go to 4/10s. I just don't know what problem we're trying to fix here. It seems like you're kind of bearing up on this one on me, and I'm trying to figure out why.
I think you just mentioned it was the correct behavior part. Why are we using somebody's, I guess, normal work schedule to correct behavior? If somebody lives hour and a half, 2 hours away, 4/10s kind of helps on the commute, but to correct behavior, you're just going to say, okay, now come in that extra day.
So let me ask you, do you think there's never a reason to correct behavior?
I don't think, I guess the way I look at it is somebody that was normally on a 24-hour shift, 1 on 3 off, it seems like having them come in to work 4/10s is correcting that bit. I mean, that already is hitting them. This seems like.
That's when you get admin pay, I'm assuming? What are you talking about there? When they're assigned to administration?
No, I
Or
mean.
they're doing special projects? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there's some people that have been brought down that were not on an admin assignment.
Okay, so special project.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
So having them drive in instead of once every 3 days to now 4 times a week, I mean, that already is a hit on them. And then changing it now from, now we're going to go to 5/8 midway through, especially when we're looking at, well, people schedule their lives around, you know, the consistency of the schedule. So that's really what we were looking for was
Okay.
consistency of schedule, but.
I think I know some of the situations you're referring to, and there's a difference of opinion. I brought them down for professional development to design a program. You or they feel like it was disciplinary? And it was not, it never went through an investigation, never went through that process. No, that was not corrective behavior. That was professional development. And we developed a program out of it. I know there are certain people that see things differently, and that's why I need the prerogative to run my department. Because we may disagree on things, but I need to be able to run my department for it to be effective and efficient for the community. I mean, it's more about the community than this city, than any one individual.
Yeah, I mean,
And how often has that happened in 12 years? And so what are we trying to fix, once again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to probably look and see how many times it's happened. I mean, I can think of 4 in the last 2 years off the top of my head, but I don't know when we're talking about the grand scheme. I really don't know, but, yeah, I mean, we'll look at that one a little bit. Like I said, I totally understand the chief having to have discretion to run the department, as he does, which is why, we agreed with the managing rights thing. Try and figure out a way to make it work. And
I thank you for that. And I just wanted to lay that out and talk about the issues on that article, the maintenance of standards article. We'll go ahead and wait to hear back from you on maintenance of standards, what your thoughts are there, and see if we can draft a counter proposal after we hear from that. And if you've got some more input on this, our current counter proposal eliminates those other divisions. And so we will send that back to you after we get a chance to go through the Kelly Day language that you just sent to us.
okay,
And I'll tell you this, it's entirely possible, and I think this may be part of the disconnect on the sick leave costing data that we sent you. The answer to some of those questions is those numbers were derived by taking the days when sick leave and overtime codes were in the same pay period, okay? And so probably the reason you think that those numbers are wrong is that those numbers appear to represent the full overtime pay during that time period, which will be 1.5 instead of halftime, okay? So the actual savings are probably somewhere between 1/3 and 60% of the number that you got for that time period.
okay,
But
yeah,
if
that's what I was trying to figure out was like, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I could tell that you were saying, wait a minute, there's a disconnect here on the
Yeah.
numbers. And so we went back and sorted through that. That would not surprise me, okay? And I just wanted to make it clear, that's why I put together this deal points deal, because from the beginning, saving overtime on sick leave, which y'all have, very candidly agreed, makes logical, good sense, is one of the things that we're using to be able to afford the staffing commitment that we're talking about. It's not all of it. It's a significant amount of money. Most of the money is going to have to come from other sources that the city is dedicating to additional firefighter staffing. And so what I'm trying to do is to work with my team, just like the chief and Orlando and Janet and everybody on our group, which is you want your members to be able to understand the logic of what we've done to put money behind firefighter staffing in the department. Maintaining the Kelly Day, leaving that expectation in place, putting people butts in seats, as you talked about it, and making the commitment that those enhancements in positions over 4 years, it was going to be 50, what was it? 54 originally, but then that was the 5th year, so 13 less than that is 41 additional butts in seats on top of the 8 admin in that first year. So we'll go back and work on those articles. Is there anything else that you need from us?
So, I mean, just looking at the sick leave thing, I mean, you said, so it's probably about 1/3 of what that number is?
It may well be 1/3 of that number, which would be halftime, and we don't know that for sure. I'm just telling you that that's what we sorted through, looking at that number, since you said we think that's too high. Because that is the actual projected, in other words, they went to the system. They don't have access to Telestaff. They're looking at a different set of data that's derived from Telestaff. And they took, each payroll period for a firefighter that had sick leave code and overtime code in the same time period, and they took the amount of overtime that was on those paychecks and correlated the total, and that's the number that you have.
So, just to kind of clarify and wrap that up, I totally understand how they, I mean, that makes total sense to me, and when we looked at that number, that's exactly what we were trying to calculate, is at halftime. If that's the case, you're talking about roughly 1 FTE on that savings side of the equation? On an annual basis, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then we all talked about this, pulling that sick leave out of the hours worked, we're having to reconfigure all this other stuff. Well, we're reconfiguring the Kelly Days situation to where it's guaranteed Kelly Days. We've agreed to all this in theory. Are we really like tripping over or down to pick up a nickel kind of thing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, because what we want is we want those savings of not paying overtime based on sick leave from now on, forever. So, that's what it is.
Okay.
Good question. If you just look at it first year, let's say it's $150,000 or $160,000 or whatever it is. But the firefighters that are going to be working here in those 41 positions are going to be here from now on, so.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to go to caucus, and we will give you some feedback on what we have. We'll probably be sending you revised articles. Do you have feedback for us on the grievance article at this point?
I mean, we're grievance and discipline, we're gonna have to spend time looking at again. The grievance one, I guess, that, here's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. Like, I mean, you explained it, you laid it out really well. But as far as we know, we would be the first city to do this, right? Where we use the hearing examiner as the arbitrator.
That's not the way that I would characterize this, because I know a number of places where that's actually happened. What I told you in all candor is, I don't know of another labor agreement that has this provision in it instead of mediation and/or arbitration, which in most places results in doing both and spending the money to do both. And what I wrote here and recommended to the city and they put on the table is that it works this way, but only if each party agrees to go forward that way. So you don't have to do it.
Okay.
The contract just provides for us to do it if we both choose to, okay? So that if you go to mediation ahead of time and everybody agrees, we're gonna go to this mediator, and if we don't settle, the mediator is gonna resolve the dispute for us. And you get to make that choice every time.
I now see in bold on the article, it says mutual agreement required. So I may not have had the text large enough to see that it was in bold.
Yeah.
So I don't think I need those yet, but.
So, anyway, that was my argument, which is you're not giving anything up because you get to make your mind up every time whether or not you want to do it that way.
Correct, yeah. We'll
The
go.
city had the same reaction you did.
Yeah, see all sorts of different colors and a bunch of big words and stuff.
Yeah.
You may miss some here and there, so.
Right.
We'll go take a look at that. That cleared up my question on that one.
And we'd really like to hear back from you on investigations and discipline, and we're looking forward to your yes on appointed position for the chief's office.
So question on the investigations, I guess, again, kind of going into the suspensions, appeals, not appealed. I've looked at every other contract. We would be the only one that does one half times. It's typically time for time.
Right. I think that's true.
So, again, just help me sell
Just
out.
so we're clear, is that the only hangup in that article,
I
Brian?
think there's, you had some questions, or that was the only one?
Why don't y'all talk
Yeah.
about that?
Let-
We're not trying to
Okay.
rush you. We want to sort it through.
Okay.
Right now, what I think the answer is what Janet just focused on, which is 1.5. I think otherwise this article is pretty much the norm in every other respect. We think that at 1.5, first of all, Chief Conley doesn't like this anyway because he thinks that if somebody gets punished, they ought to have to be off work and have a cut in their pay, okay? And I recommended that we do a leave forfeiture, and he thinks that 1.5 will get somebody's attention and get better behavior. If he's right, everybody wins. And we don't have to appeal, and the association doesn't have to pay for the cost of the arbitrator, and we don't have to go all through that stuff at these lower levels of discipline. And none of it matters for the serious discipline anyway, because it's not even a consideration. That's my best speech. Your opinion will be what your opinion is, and I'll respect it, so.
And just to dovetail on the Lowell, remember, they don't miss any pay. They're still getting their pay. They're taking that out of their bank account, and they're doing time served, and it's an option.
Right.
And like I was
Yes.
saying the first time, Lowell's right, I don't like it. I'd be more than happy to take that part out. I really would. The city manager is the one who put that forward against my recommendation, so he put it forward as an option for you to take and still get paid and never miss a paycheck.
What's your cap on vacation pay?
It's 2 years.
Yeah.
And so that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And so if I was you, and if I said yes to this, and I'm trying to tell your members why it's in their best interest, what I'm going to tell them is the leave that you lose there is going to be vacation leave you don't get paid for when you leave anyway. And I think that's going to be true for most everybody.
And they don't have to take it.
If
I mean, they
they've
don't
accrued
have
They
to.
can always say
They
no.
They
Yeah,
can,
if they've accrued that much. I think in the situation the way it sits now, it's probably not ever going to be utilized, like that option. People are going to go, no, I'm not forfeiting 1.5 times when I can just take it off.
Okay?
But I think,
Can we agree to take it out?
Let's have some discussion on this, and the only reason I bring that up is I don't think it's a bad idea at 1-to-1, and the reason I say that is because if we end up, I'm trying to make it, I guess, enticing, not enticing per se, but like if somebody's willing to accept 1-to-1, maybe we don't go through the process of going to the commission, going to an arbitrator, going to court, whatever it may be. If we take this option out, then that's the only other avenue we can go, trying to avoid some of the additional legal headache there. But
Why don't y'all sort that through, and I'll talk to the chief and the city manager about whether or not there's any other options on
and the
our
goal
side.
there is not to encourage more appeals before
Right.
the commission or the
Right.
hearing
Right,
examiner.
and-
That's
and-
not the goal of that article. It was really kind of a way out
yeah.
to prevent from having so many appeals.
And that's what we're trying to do, but that's, again, my concern with the 1.5 is maybe we just start going down the appeal route, which I don't want to do. I'm trying to make it palatable for the people to avoid an appeal.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, I think we're aligned in terms of what
Yeah.
the goal is. I think we just got to figure out how to get there that's palatable.
You've got the 1.5 plus the waiver of the appeal. So it's kind of a double ding, if you want to call it that. I think it may have the opposite effect of creating more issues going to hearing officer.
And I'm
Seems beneficial, but I guess I'm not seeing it from y'all's side. It seems to me like it would be beneficial to them to not have to go through that
Well, okay.
process and continue to get pay.
Yeah, I mean, I
Versus
think,
a suspension without pay. I guess I'm not understanding why. I mean, a suspension without pay is something that, it would be hard, I would imagine, for the firefighter. So if they have time in a bank that they could use to satisfy that suspension,
And they-
however we're taking it out, whatever number the hours are, it seems to me like that is of benefit to them to some
right,
degree.
and then they can do that at 1-to-1, correct? I mean, because if somebody leaves tomorrow, I mean, they're going to get paid 1-to-1. I mean, it's still hitting their paycheck, and we accrue, one vacation shift every 4 pay periods or something like that. So, I mean, people are losing vacation. And
Yeah.
I get it at the end of the day. I mean, it's an option for people to take. I'm trying to make it a palatable
Well,
option.
just think how many times we've had multiple days off. And one of the first questions, y'all been in there, is do I have to do it all at once? And I offer them the opportunity to split it over different pay periods. This is even a better option than splitting it over pay periods, because
Yeah.
they don't want the impact of not getting paid.
Yeah,
And that's what they're putting forward here.
And you've been super accommodating with that stuff. You know, I tell people, ask all the time. I mean, you've been very fair with discipline, and even though not everybody sees it that way, we've seen it because we've been in those rooms. You've been incredibly fair with discipline.
Well, discipline is to correct behavior, not to beat the crap out of people.
Right.
And that's what I've always said, is to correct behavior. This
Right.
gives them an option to not lose money, but have to take a little hit in their vacation bank. But like I said, I'll be the first one to stand up front and say, let's take it out. This is not a good option.
Yeah, well, let us have a discussion on that a little bit, and
Maybe you can consider looking at it one-to-one as well.
We're gonna look at all the options.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Lo.
And I even have some other ideas.
oh boy, more ideas. And then the not necessarily a question, but I didn't know if you guys, for recording purposes, wanted to kind of go over that the vacation proposal you sent with the 90% or whatever. It makes
Yep.
sense to me, but
Yep.
people, you know, the recording may not understand that part.
I think that's an excellent idea. We sent you the language. I'm gonna let the chief explain it, because he had to dictate it to me about 4 times.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like we talked about last time we met, we were talking about, I threw out the option to set up a benchmark. And that's all this is. This is a benchmark or a trigger point that when you get to that point, we have to start looking at opening up more days. And so rather than saying getting that to 10%, we just said when we hit 90% usage of the vacation slots, so let's just say, for simple math, that you have 1,000 slots, and we hit 90% of that 1,000 slots, or 900, you have 100 slots left. We have to open up another half. And so the half we're looking at opening up are the months that are not utilized the most. And then once we hit that next benchmark at 10% again, we'll open up the second. So we'll, kind of like we did the last time, we went from 6 to 6.5 to 7, we'd be following that same pattern here. But rather than having a discussion on, you know, well, I did this and it's real black and white. It's a 10% trigger point, and that's what activates it. And we know exactly what months we're going to hit.
Simple arithmetic.
Yeah.
I had originally suggested, why don't we just go to 8 slots in year 3 or year 4 of the contract, but this actually tracks it to our staffing and the utilization of
Yeah,
vacation.
it takes discussion out of it. It's math at that point. Once you hit 10%, we got to open it up. You hit 10% again, we got to open it up again. And then as we add people, it'll continually get opened up. Like right now, I was sharing with you that we had 70 slots available out of, 845 or 49? I can't remember exact, or 47, I think. So we're below that 10% right now. So I'm telling you right now, we got to open up another half to hit the factor that you're looking for. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's good to explain, and I know you want the people that are watching to listen to hear this, but that's the best way I know how to explain it, is when you spend 90% of your dollar, it's time to open it back up. And when you open it up, it's going to drop it back up to, say, 70 or 60, I don't know, and then you hit that 90 again, we got to open it up again. We never get all the way down to 92, 95, 98% and have an argument over opening up or not. It's there. The benchmark's there. We can all look at it. We can average it out. After vacations are chosen, bow, there it is, Chief. It's time to open it back up. You're right. So I think this takes the argument and the discussion and, you know, who wants what out of the equation, and it puts it into the math specter, and we'll be good with that. So does that clarify?
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it made sense to me. I mean, I thought it was a good creative idea. Like I said, just for the people to understand it, since it was proposed in email.
Chief, one other question. Would that be done after the annual vacation picks? To evaluate it then?
Yeah, I think we should look at it after everybody's chosen their vacation. Now, what we got to be careful of, you know, is somebody going in there and not necessarily, I guess what we got to watch is, let's just put it this way, if all the firemen go in there like they did one year And they say, hey, well, we're just going to pick up all the vacation. We're going to show them that they need to open up another spot. And then they start dropping those vacations days. We need to take those into effect too. Does that make sense? So if everybody goes in and they have maxed out vacation time, we're going to empty out the bank account so we can open up all these slots, and then within 30 days or so, they start dropping them. That's going to have a whole nother discussion that we have to have. But if you go in there
But
and
it
you
would be,
pick your day
it would be self-correcting under this language, because it would just postpone the next
Yeah.
step for another year
for
or
a
two or three.
longer period of time.
Chief, would you entertain looking at year end for the following year?
I think that would be a better solution.
Because then those would
Then
be
it shows
available.
the previous year.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that would be a better solution.
I really like talking to y'all, because y'all help us figure out a better way to do stuff.
Yeah, I think that would be a
Sometimes.
better option. That way it shows past practice on what you utilized.
And throughout the year, those days fill up. I mean, like January would be full, but but it's
I'll
not
take
until
sometimes.
January hits
Yeah.
that you look at it.
So I can tell you this year, you've already passed the 10% benchmark, so we need to go in there and add a half a slot back in.
Yeah.
And then we'll do it again at the end of the year and see if we need to open up another half. And we'll just do that year in, year out.
And we'll add that to the language in this proposal, because I think it's a good point. I mean, it was a defect here that didn't say when do you get the microscope out and take a look at it?
When you say half a slot, do you mean open up for one round? How do you mean?
Half a slot, I'm talking about the months that are utilized the least would be added first.
Yes, sir.
When we hit that factor again, the other 6 months would be. It's not 6 months blocks, it's 6 months that are utilized the least. So let's just say, over last year, you had September, January, February, March, April, and May that were used the least out of all 12 months.
Yes, sir.
So when we open up another slot, it would go to those 6 months first.
Okay. So actually one slot, but just for 6 months. That's what
Correct.
you're calling
Correct.
half.
Just going to
Yes,
say
sir.
exactly that, because
Yeah.
when he and I were talking it through, I said, don't you mean a half a slot? And he said, no, I mean one additional slot, but it's for 6 months. And that's actually makes it work, because you got to have a slot to place it, so. We'll give y'all a report in about 20 minutes
Okay,
about
sounds
what's
good.
next.
Yeah,
All right.
I think it's a good idea, Chief. I think, turns out, well, sitting down here, figuring it out together, getting it done, way to do it.
So we've sent y'all several things. Where would y'all like to begin this afternoon? Try to get done as much as we can.
I guess he just stepped out, so we can go over the payroll one real quick.
We had an internal discussion about that. And I think the city's going to be limited to taking out union dues and doing it that way. We're not trying to interfere in your ability to do your other union objectives with your members and so forth. But I think the city's going to decline to handle the funding part of that stuff. City manager actually suggested you may want to use a similar deal the way they do the Project Hope here, where they send out something for city employees to contribute to that operation, where there's a QR code and people can, make their donations automatically that way. But it looks like that's the only solution that's going to work for us.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I mean, if that's the case on that one, I feel like we can probably cut that thing down to 3 sentences instead of a page and a half. So, we'll,
Take a look at that.
Yeah,
Take a
well-
look at that and send us how you want to
Okay.
adjust it.
yeah, I mean, we'll come up with something that's just real short and sweet instead of having a big lengthy article. I guess the other one we can go over is the certification incentive pay. So, look through that one. What's the thought process on the administrative pay? on the non-officers making less than they're currently making.
Chief, you want to address the value behind that?
Yeah, we were just looking at, because I believe we've got 15 personnel that currently draw that salary, the administrative pay. So the two that were non-officer, we're trying to give separation in the duties that the officers do compared to the non-officers, and then compensate them more than what the non-officers are making.
Okay.
So you'd have 13 that would go up in pay. And of course, the non-officer would go down $50.
Yeah, slightly
Well,
down.
Or 25.
$25.
25.
It's 13 for now, right? Because we just approved more people to go to administrative assignments.
Correct, we're
Okay.
looking at current, yeah.
Okay, so okay. Still behind on that one.
What are y'all looking for?
Well, so let me pull it up. Pretty sure I emailed you guys the little comp chart. This must have been a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
of where other people are at, other comparison cities are at. Most of them are on a percentage base, or at least higher than where that's at. And all of them, except for one, have the ability to work overtime in the field. You had mentioned that when it was initially created in 2009, it was $250. We're pretty close to that 16 years later, I think. So that'll just be something I've got to look at a little more with our comparisons
Or
on.
do you have a recommendation other than your original proposal?
I mean, I even countered with a lower percentage I've seen other people do, without even asking for overtime in the field. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to figure this one out a little bit more.
Okay.
And then the only other question I had on there was the thought process on the task force pay.
Thought process on that was, I know that FEO Estes can probably vouch, but the extra duties, the extra training, the extra requirements put upon members as part of that Task Force 2 deployment, we'd be looking to create a MOU for Task Force 2 on our Swiftwater team to be able to provide that certification pay to them as well.
Okay, but they would only get Swiftwater pay or I guess what I'm trying to figure out is where's the hang up on just giving the Swiftwater guys that 50 instead of the people on task force? Because I mean the task force guys are already getting, I mean no offense to the guys on task force, and they're already getting paid overtime by task force to be down there. And I think just kind of looking at the current fiscal year budget, the proposal for the logistics battalion chief that was approved in the proposed budget basically talks about the importance of specialty teams, the increase in capabilities to maintain training and testing requirements. Would that not apply for justification as why the Swiftwater people would need that $50?
Well, as you know, the Swiftwater team is just one aspect that the Spec Ops chief would be doing. They're going to be doing technical rescue, hazardous material, as well as Swiftwater. They're going to keep up with certification, required training. They're going to keep up with grant programs, opportunity for grants, and when equipment runs out of service and needs to be replaced. There's a whole lot more to it for that Spec Ops. To compare his position to a Swiftwater team, I don't think it's fair.
I didn't mean to do that. What
Okay.
I'm saying is the justification for the logistics battalion chief could also be the same justification for the Swiftwater cert needing to go up. That's what I'm getting at. Like, I fully understand the need for a logistics bat chief. What I'm getting at again is the justification in the budget request could be the same justification used for the Swiftwater pay going up.
Well, once again, we'll back up on just Swiftwater Rescue Team deployments. How many times have they been deployed over the past year for a Swiftwater, not a recovery, but an actual Swiftwater rescue? or over the last 10 years. It's very limited. Now, I get they gotta do the training. That's what they get paid the extra $50 for, is to be trained. You're saying they deserve 100, and I'm saying I don't think they're at that point yet. Now, if they'll join Task Force 2 and be willing to be deployed as a swiftwater team, that's where we're coming from, is we'll bump them up another 50. We'll work on that MOU with Teeks to try to get them on the task force team for swiftwater rescue. And then that'll add another $50 to them for that deployment capability. And there's a lot of additional training that goes along with Task Force 2 members outside of what our normal training is.
Right, and there's, additional training requirements are coming in place for the Swiftwater people with the TCFB, and that's kind of what I was getting at, was I wasn't looking at certification pay necessarily as much as what they do, but the extra hours that go into it, because, and no disrespect to the technical rescue people, but I mean, what are the numbers of cave-ins we've had or trench rescues we've had as well? I mean,
Actually, it's been 10 to 12 times the amount of call volume. We've got that. Anything from...
you guys know that better than I do, but...
Anything from going out on possible structural collapses, heavy vehicle rescues, all those things fall up under the TR team where we send that. And actually, when you go back to the commission, what they're going to be adding on to the Swiftwater, that's to be certified through the state, and the state doesn't dictate what you do at local jurisdiction unless you're deployed at the state level, and that's where I want to give the extra $50. Our technical rescue team was not required to get a certification from the state to be TRT members. We decided to do that internally in case those members wanted to join that team. So it wasn't a mandate, I should put it.
Is the, I guess, is the Swiftwater certification that comes around, is that going to come with continuing education or anything like that, or? I'm trying to figure.
You mean with the state?
Yeah.
Oh, I would suspect so because the TRT members do.
But, okay. And I guess that's kind of what I was getting at with the increase in pay, was there's going to be additional requirements of them to maintain the certification.
Yeah, if they want to be on the deployment team, I'm sure there'll be additional requirements for training, and that's where I'm going.
Okay.
Rather than justify giving them $100 for what they're doing now, I'm saying if they'll go to the deployment of a technical rescue team or a state deployment team, then we can bump it up another 50 because there will be additional requirements from the state to do additional training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll process that one a little
Okay.
longer. And then did you look into the intermediate inspector a whole lot? Like, I mean, how many people are we going to lose $40 a month on?
We looked at that, and Janet, you can verify or...
Yeah, I mean, HR said that they're not losing. They're currently paid the $60 per month based on current city policy. That's what HR has told us.
The ordinance says inspectors get $100 a month.
Okay. We'll check with HR. I mean, I'm just conveying information, but we will check on that.
Okay, let me see. I think
Well, I can,
I'll have to pull that ordinance up.
Chief, one of the big things that we see with admin assignments from our brother and sister departments around are that ability to work field overtime. I guess, can you help us understand why that seems to be a non-starter?
Well, yeah. Actually, I can, because I was here when they first implemented that policy and that ordinance for additional pay, and it had nothing to do with your ability to work overtime or not. It was only to help with the impact you have at home from going from a 1 day off, 2 days off, 1 day on schedule to a 40-hour work week, which back then, nobody worked 4 10s, they worked 5 8s. So that admin pay was to help them with childcare, lunches, whatever else they weren't used to doing. It was not to compensate for them not getting overtime.
Now, I apologize, I may have asked the question poorly.
Okay.
Because we want the best candidates down there in admin, because they provide that support role, we want you guys to have a larger pool versus the the guy that's low man, et cetera. The other cities do it to entice a larger pool to want to get into that game. And so what we would like to see is on the weekends, especially if they're on 410s, why that individual can't work in the field. We feel like that gives them an opportunity to stay crisp on their field skills, as well as being able to earn a little additional income.
Yeah, of course, as you know, a 40-hour work week, they get paid a lot more per hour than a 53-hour work week.
Yes,
So
sir.
that impacts your payroll budget.
Yes, sir.
That is also why we allowed them to work special events overtime, which there are plenty of opportunities for them to do that to earn extra income. And I know we've got an assistant chief that every time it came up in the field as a special event, he would work that overtime to increase his payroll. So
Yes, sir.
that falls upon the event that's being put on here in the city and not the city itself.
So ultimately, it just boils down to the
No, no,
overtime budget
I'm not
and the
talking about
impact
that.
they have on it.
Payroll, overtime, correct.
Okay. We just felt like that there's value in being able to get a better candidate pool, even for the additional dollars.
And you know, maybe that would turn out to be true. I would suspect it wouldn't. I would think most people would still want to stay on a one-day, two-off schedule and not come downtown for an extra $50, $100, $200 a month. I don't think that's going to increase your pool like you think it might, but it definitely would help. It might help them with some of those impacts that they would face, but I don't think it would, quote-unquote, bring your best candidates down. I think those candidates step up when they can.
Yes, sir.
Now.
And we just have anecdotal evidence, but while we're traveling around, some of these other departments, guys are kind of fighting to get into these positions. And, we don't necessarily see the same thing here at home. And so kind of wanted to get some clarification on
Okay.
why that
Well,
is.
that's my perspective and what I've seen. So maybe things have changed a little bit.
Yes, sir.
And the investigator pay, so it's in our general procedures, 3.2 certification incentive pay. Arson investigator gets $100 a month.
Arson investigator, rather than paying TCO like they do in police department, we pay arson investigator who are TCO certified.
Okay, so,
They're not an inspector. Inspector is what they have to get in order to get the job. And then we allow them to move up certification to intermediate, advanced, and master. That's why we grouped them with the firefighter.
okay, well, then I guess somewhere on here, maybe under certification pay, we probably have to, if you guys understand what I'm saying, we probably have to put back in investigator, because,
Yeah, it needs to stay in there. If it's not in there, we'll need to keep it in there because they have to go get investigator certification on top of the TCO. Only thing we require them when we hire them is to be TCO certified. They have to go get the arson certification afterwards.
okay, so that'd be something, I guess, we would.
Okay, you
we
can
would-
add that back
We
in
would
the
put that back
certification.
in there, would be just adding that. And then, then it makes sense to me.
Okay.
That's what I was getting at, was like, and my apologies,
I told you, we appreciate you.
yeah.
No,
Mixing up investigator, inspector, totally get it. Again, I think that's coming down here and talking through it helps, figure that out. So we'll get that put back in there. And then, like I said, we'll have some discussion about,
So can y'all give us, why do you want to do a 3 or 5% of pay? Why not a flat rate for certification pays and admin?
That's, if you index it over time, last time these went up was 2009, is that right?
well,
No,
Just-
this
pretty
thing
much.
was implemented before 2000.
But before, yeah,
Yeah.
but anytime we made an adjustment, in 2009, $250 was
Yeah.
like $375 now with inflation.
Right,
So
but
if
the
we
the
index
same
it to
question
pay-
you gave me, I'm gonna give back to you, is why are we paying a non-officer $50 more and an officer less, and an officer $50 more, right? Why are we paying somebody 3% of their salary as a bat chief, but 3% of their salary as a captain? So they're making less money than a chief officer to a captain to a lieutenant.
Correct,
Well,
but
I-
it's commensurate to their pay level.
yeah.
Yeah,
and-
but you're paying them less. You asked me the same question, so I'm
And
giving it back to you.
I think when I first laid that proposal out, I think the idea behind it was, as you move up, like if you're the battalion chief overtrained, you're gonna have more responsibility than the firefighter, and that's what I was getting at with the percentage.
And that's my same logic for officer, non-officer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think we'd probably rather have a fixed amount on these things instead of the percentages. Philosophically, we're just opposed to the percentages. We understand the logic about how over time that keeps you from falling behind. But everywhere that I bargain, whether they're on 3 or 4 year cycles, you know, the issues come up and get reviewed. Once you're in bargaining, it's different than the context of where you've been before. So if we set amounts that we can agree on now, everybody's going to look at them again when the contract comes up again, so.
Yeah, I mean, I get that logic, but, I mean, theoretically, couldn't that same logic be applied to the vacation thing? I mean, right now, our trigger is a percentage versus a set number. You know what I'm saying? No, I mean, what I'm trying to get at is like, the logic is consistent throughout the contract is what I'm trying to get at. But, I mean, you know, that's just how my brain works, but I understand where you guys are coming from. Like, each article it is what it is. I mean, each article is its own article. I just have to wrap my head around that part that it's not going to be necessarily consistent depending on the circumstances, so.
Well, honestly, to be fair,
And it might help you to realize that some hypocrisy is inherent in the human condition.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around, so bear with me on that part of it.
You made me forget what I was going to say when you.
Yeah, let me, like I said, let's review that one a little bit, and then, like I said, I've got a note to get the investigator back in there, like our policy says, and then, kind of go from there on that one. What's the next one? That's gonna be
I think we finally got on the same page with the sick leave thing. We got that straightened out.
Yeah.
What we don't agree with your doubling the second bite at the apple, okay? We agreed with 4 shifts before the first occasion. We think that's a legitimate, good idea. Not 4 shifts, 4 days.
Yeah.
2 shifts, 4 days as the first trigger. But we'd rather either stick with our earlier proposal or just use the current city policy, which is after that, it's over 60 hours utilization.
Okay, so yeah, we may look at, as we work through that one, we may look at just going back to what city policy is, so
But it's a legitimate accomplishment that the 4 days means, I mean, you make a good argument. If we're trying to find the people that are abusing the system as opposed to the people that are using it like it's intended, then we don't need to have documentation until you're out for 4 days or more.
well,
2
yeah, I mean,
shifts,
two
4
shifts,
days,
2 shifts in 12 months, basically,
exactly.
which,
Yep.
yeah, and that's what I'm getting at, is like maybe, well, you know, we just revert back to what city policy is. Did you guys have any thought about the sick leave incentive? And the only reason I bring that up is there's a line in that policy, city policy, that I think is interesting. It says that city's incentive is designed as an incentive for employees to minimize unscheduled time off. So if you're looking at trying to minimize overtime and sick leave, would that not be a good motivation or incentive?
I think the problem with sick leave incentives like buyback and so forth and so on, 2 or 3 comments on that. I think in the context of us trying to get this football over the goal line here, it's kind of late in the game to be adding something else, just as a practical matter. Secondarily, I've been bargaining sick leave incentive programs, you know, all my life, police and fire side both. And the primary challenge is that a buyback incentive usually spends most of the money on the people that are complying with the rules and coming to work already. Okay, so you're spending the money. The people are getting the money are not the people that you're trying to change their behavior. Okay, I think that what we are doing here, coupled with, you know, you made the point a couple of times, you know, the chief has the ability to enforce the sick leave policy and to investigate people that aren't following the rules. And I think that we're pretty close to striking a good balance here. So that's our perspective on that. I think we're real close to resolving these issues about sick leave and how it works. And that's pretty, we think we're pretty close to making this deal happen. I think the issue of whether or not sick leave incentive is a good idea is a good thing to talk about next time we're at this bargaining table. That way we'll have the history, we'll see what it looks like, we'll have extra staff people. The chief's going to see what he can accomplish using these tools as well as, just enforcing the rules in the regular good old-fashioned ways. If we solve the disciplinary article to where that's efficient, we're still looking at ways to do that. One of the options that I want you to think about before we write up something else, because in my mind it kind of goes hand in hand, y'all are not interested in the 1.5 burn rate on the disciplinary forfeiture of leave as opposed to time off. Think about whether or not you would be interested in just having a provision to where an individual could propose to burn leave instead of appealing, and the chief could make a decision on a case-by-case basis. The chief could decide that 1-to-1 was fine in a particular case. The chief could decide it was 1.5, and the member's going to get to decide whether or not they do it or not anyway. It's just an option.
Okay.
So that's what I've recommended to him. That way he can use some common sense about how much of a correction it takes. And if somebody says, well, you told me I have to burn 1.5, I'm not going to do it, so I'm appealing the suspension.
Okay.
We're hoping that'll solve that part of the problem.
Yeah, it's also,
Chief, you're good with that, right?
And getting back to the sick leave incentive, I think, from management's perspective, we already do the sick leave payout that is above and beyond the statutory maximum required by 143. So I think from our standpoint, that the purpose behind that initially, is my understanding, though I wasn't here at the time, was to act as an incentive for firefighters to not use so much sick leave. And that's why that number was increased.
I think the idea behind the annual sick leave buyback, for example, would be, so the way it stands right now is, people can earn, X number of hours to get paid out on at a future rate. If you're selling back a certain amount each year, you're selling it back at their current rate versus a future rate, which is always going to be higher. I think that was the idea behind the sick leave buyback, was you're selling it at today's dollars versus future dollars.
And let me help you out a little bit. The other part of your argument there is that if you put the incentive closer to the time of the behavior, the incentive is more effective than if your benefit is 10, 15, 20 years out. Legitimate argument in favor of doing that. And it might not be a bad idea. The reality is, and y'all have acknowledged this, the younger the employee, the less likely they are to be savers that are putting their sick leave in the bank until the point in time that they actually can't come to work and they have a problem and they need the time. So, I think it's legitimate to look at, but I think in terms of a brand-new contract and a, beginning relationship with the city of Irving with the collective bargaining agreement, I think you're in a better position to talk about that the next time.
Okay.
I'm generally in favor of sick leave incentives. My biggest problem is the one I told you with right up front, is that if the city's paying everybody that's already doing it right to get the other people to behave, I'm not sure that's the best plan.
Wouldn't that be true for all the departments?
I think it's true for all departments, absolutely.
Okay. But that procedure is in place for all the other departments?
Understand?
Okay.
Yeah, well.
Understand.
Well, I'll have to look at that one.
I always own up to the truth, sir.
I know.
No, I understand it.
Okay, and what else do I have on here? If you guys want to go over the work hours one a little bit, I'm good with hearing that. I guess my only input right off the bat is, again, taking out the section changes by mutual agreement. So I thought a couple meetings ago, we all thought that was a good idea because you know, I brought up the 2448 versus 4896, for example. Like I said, I know Chief Connolly, not a fan of 4896, but the next chief might be a fan of it. Is he going to now be bound to what this says because there's no provision there that it can be changed by mutual agreement?
I mean, I would say it's still subject to an amendment to the contract. I mean, if we needed to vary from that at some point during the term of this agreement, we could, by mutual agreement, make that change, but it would go through, you know, an amendment to the contract itself versus just some discussion between the fire chief and the association.
Okay, I guess my thought process behind putting in that one is it's kind of spelled out mutual agreement between the chief and the association instead of.
Right.
If we do an amendment or an MOU, does that like open it back up where we have to have everybody at the table again?
Let me
Or-
see if I understand what you're saying. On the counter proposal that we sent you back, are you suggesting that if you accept that counter proposal, the way we wrote it, you think we should still include a provision that allows the parties to change it by mutual agreement? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm asking.
I think that's what you're asking. And so, in other words, if we have a schedule deal that both sides agree to, which includes the lock-in on the Kelly Day, which is your new language, the chief retaining his authority with respect to the schedules of those other divisions that we talked about, implementing the shift investigator schedule the way it's in our current counter proposal. I think what you're asking is, wouldn't it still be a good idea to have the ability to modify those schedules by mutual agreement as opposed to having to go back for ratification by the city council and your membership?
That's exactly what I'm getting at on that one. And to me, that one's not even really anything for us as is for the next chief that comes in, having that ability to change.
That's what I thought you were
Yeah.
saying, and I think I agree with you, and we will talk about that.
Okay.
And what we probably want to do is to strengthen that language slightly so that that's a decision that you could make at the executive board level and the fire chief and the city manager could make on our side. That way, that could be accomplished without council ratification or
Yeah.
membership ratification.
And that's what I put in there, said the fire chief
Okay.
can agree with the association executive board, so.
Okay?
Yeah, I think we're on the same page on that one.
All right.
I'm not trying to handcuff the next.
No, and I'm
the next
just
chief.
reading the tea leaves on my side, and I don't think anybody's disagreeing with my perspective. Rolando, do you think I'm on the right track here? Just gives flexibility to us if we choose to do it.
I think it's reasonable. I also think this is only a 4-year contract, so we
Right.
can negotiate at that point as well.
All right? I think we're on the same page about that.
And what I'm understanding, you're talking about section 1.
No,
Operations.
No, I mean, I'm talking about adding in that section, but essentially what we're talking about is, correct, is section 1 of the 2448.
I would like to be specific, just so it doesn't bleed over into the other
Let's
areas.
say,
Well-
it applies to the whole article
Okay,
as
and then
drafted.
I guess we can have it written. Just
And we
yeah,
can-
Let us talk about that and see how
Okay.
we think that ought to fit. But I think the discussion was very worthwhile.
Okay.
I had a question. We wrote on the, I lost my place, I'm sorry. On the shift duty investigators, we put in there 14-day cycle, I'll change to 28. I don't really have a lot of heartburn, but it just, the thought process behind the 14 days was to get it.
It's the way the days work out so that you don't end up triggering overtime in one 14-day cycle. I
Right,
didn't have my microphone on,
yeah,
which we did. Chief did.
yeah,
Chief, microphone.
One day out of 4
Microphone.
weeks, they only work one day,
correct.
with 4 shifts working, 7 days, 4 shifts. So one week out of 4, they're only gonna work one day, which is 24 hours,
Right.
and we're trying to get them to work 40 hours. How are we gonna cover the other 16? If you go to a 28-day cycle, then they average 42 hours, so they're past that point. They're not getting paid overtime because the 28-day cycle allows 42 hours.
No, because they're on a 53-hour week.
Not on 28-day cycle with law enforcement. They all carry guns or in prevention.
So they'd be covered under law enforcement instead of fire department.
With them carrying the pistol, you can go to a 28-day work cycle because they are police officers. That's correct.
So that would, I'd have to research that in FLSA, but I'm unfamiliar with the law enforcement side.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the 53-hour work week, and that's where that came from, to match up
So-
with a 2-week pay period.
Right.
That way it
See
would
what
all
you're
be
saying?
kind of synced
Right.
out. That's where it came from.
That's another good point. We'll take a look at that.
Law enforcement's a lower threshold.
43. 42?
So,
43, but
I think it's
they're working-
43.
Yeah. But, yeah, they'll be working 42 on average if you want them to go to a 1 on and 3 off.
okay,
On a
Anyway,
14
that's the-
day.
that's
I never looked at it from the cop side.
Yeah.
That's why we did it at 28.
okay.
That's-
It accomplishes what you want, but it keeps us within the guidelines that we want, so.
Okay.
I mean, I can't speak,
Okay.
I can't speak intelligently about that because I don't know the hour breakdown. But from a 53 hour, just thinking line up with pay periods and make it easier on payroll.
1 day on, 3 days off. It's not 53.
It's 40,
Right.
right?
So even though it's a 28-day cycle, they're still working 1 day on, 3 off, which is a 40-hour work week, is what you're trying to accomplish, which is what they work in.
Right.
And to go to a 28-day cycle, with them being law enforcement, we can go to up to 43, and based upon what you're trying to accomplish, they will average 42 hours.
Right.
1 day on, 3 day off.
Right. I was just wondering, really, yeah, I don't understand why we're putting them under the cop thing when we do everything else on a 53-hour for fire
You can't get
employees.
in there.
Hey, you can do it on a 14-day cycle. You can do it on a 28-day
I just
cycle.
told you how you can't do
Oh.
it, because 1 day out of 4, they're only gonna work 24 hours.
But they're working 53-hour week and not a 40-hour week. Correct?
We'll look at it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
I
we'll take a
think
look
the
at
answer
that
to your
one.
question there is, if it's true that the appropriate regulation is for police officers and not firefighters, if they're not eligible for the firefighter 53, then it has to be under the other one, and that was our assumption.
Yeah. 53, they would have to work 1 day on, 2 days off. You want them to work 1 day on, 3 days off. They don't average 53 when they have 3 days off, is what I'm saying. Even on a 28-day cycle, they can't average 53 hours with 3 days off.
How does every other fire department do it?
I don't worry about other fire. I don't know
I
where
understand.
you're pulling your information to work 1 day off 3 and have a 53-hour work week.
Well, if they work 1 day and they're off 3, they're averaging, hold on, 1 second. If they work a 28-day cycle, the max they can work is 212 hours, and they're working somewhere between 8 and 9 shifts, which is, or 7 and 9, 8 shifts during those pay periods. That would give them 168 hours or 192 hours, which is below the 212 threshold, which would not trigger overtime on a 53-hour rate.
You're right. You're right. They're working 168 hours and they're supposed to work 204 on a 53-hour work week. But you're wanting them to work a 40-hour work week. That's why they're working 1 day on and 3 days off. Now, if you want them to work 1 day on, 2 days off, we got a different discussion to have. But you're wanting them to have 3 days off. And they're currently on a 40-hour work week.
Yeah,
Are you
Yeah,
wanting to
well,
put
I'm
them
gonna
on?
have to dig into that
Yeah,
some more,
we'll-
Chief. I'm not tracking, I'm sorry.
We'll,
Okay, it's
we'll-
okay.
we'll look in that one a little bit and try and figure that one out a little bit. And then, I guess,
The only change we made on the Kelly Day, portion that you wrote was we included the other part out of the current city policy, because if they run out of holiday time currently, they have the option of working the half of that Kelly Day as opposed to taking the whole Kelly Day and using leave time. So we
Right.
just made sure that was covered.
okay, yeah, and I think, sounds like we were trying to accomplish the same thing on the Kelly Day. Like I said,
Exactly
I
the
just-
same thing.
I don't know the
Right.
backside of it or anything like that, so
It was just
subcommittee.
one more sentence that you got to when you were doing the copy and paste, there's one more
Yeah.
sentence that completed it.
My bad. We didn't copy and paste the 3 paragraphs. We ended up wording that one. Wish I knew it was in city policy. Would have saved us a lot of headache trying to figure it out on our own.
All right.
I mean, that part I think accomplishes the Kelly days, which is what we were looking for. So that works. Like I said, we'll kind of look at the work period thing a little bit. There's just some FLSA stuff we're unfamiliar with. Just want to make sure it's all kosher, but.
Sounds good.
I mean, we're trying to accomplish the same thing, so that's always a good process. Let me see. I mean, that's what I've got from you guys right now, right? I mean, I don't have anything regarding staffing or anything like that from the city.
You have our most recent staffing proposal, and then we have your counter back to that today.
I haven't seen I guess the last one I saw was the, like 14, 13.
Correct.
Okay, that was the last one.
No, yeah, we haven't sent them
Okay?
the revisions we've talked about internally.
Okay, so let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that,
Do we need to have a caucus to look at that before we send that? I think it's ready to go.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, I can send it to you.
Thank you for
Okay.
bringing that up.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
let's
the-
get that to you, and you can either talk to us about it or visit about it, and then we'll come back, whichever you prefer.
I'll just be
You just
straight
dive right in, huh?
I'll be straight up with you guys. I think having a conversation is helping us figure it out.
Good.
So, or at least we can understand, your process, and we can discuss it if needed, and then come back. But definitely hearing the process from you guys would help.
I will mention one other thing, even though we've done nothing about it and don't know if we need to, but I'm sure you're aware, just like we are. And I don't know if your efforts in Austin are trying to deal with this, funding problem. But we're having to take a look at the context of our funding obligation article with the bill that's pending in the legislature to cut that 3.5% number down to 2.5%. So.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm glad you brought that up, because I brought it up in the subcommittee meeting. A lot of the proposals or the counters that we've had come back are, you guys can't do this politically, and I get it completely, right? I mean, but again, we've passed 2 bills down in Austin that the city was interested in us doing unofficially. I'm not going to get into that part, but we have had conversations with members of the House about SB 9. We do understand that's an issue. What affects the city also ultimately affects us. So we have had those conversations. So we are working on that. But like I said, it seems like a lot of what we're trying to do in this contract is limiting our political ability, while at the same time we are getting stuff done down in Austin that benefits the city. So it's trying to understand that one. But I think the ABL one kind of spells it out. As long as we're not working against the city, we can go down there. So, but we actually can't have that conversation here either. So we'll look at some of the stuff and kind of go from there. I'm just waiting on the staffing one to come through.
Yeah, you gotta give me a second. I gotta make it shareable where
Oh, yeah.
you could actually open it.
Oh, yes. municipalities, so.
Yeah, specifically the SB 9 bill. We've been working pretty hard through all our contacts on this side we want it to go away, just like everybody else. It needs to go away bad. I got our DLAs and stuff for the state association are working on it. We're working the Capitol pretty hard. Don't want to get into specifics, but.
All right.
So we have provided you with this, our last proposal on staffing standards. This came before the one that you sent today. And what we've done here is to include under Section 2, for the purpose of implementing the four-person staffing, number of additional civil service positions to be added to the department, enlisting those in the fiscal years that are relevant here. And then below that, we have the recognition of the admin positions in the first year, just kind of outlining what those are. The ones up at the top are the ones that are for the purpose of implementing the four-person staffing. We retained the language down below, which I think you struck from your proposal, leaving in place our ability to do a department-wide reduction in force under the statutory provision. I don't think that in the context of our funding language that provision would be necessary. But for this new development in the legislature, taking a potential extra 1% out of what the city can budget without voter approval, that would be necessary. I suspect that if what that section is talking about were to occur, that probably would also talk about standing down or browning out apparatus if you were taking people out of the department across the board. Am I right, Chief? And so don't see that as something that's counter four-person staffing, because it's not. If we were reducing the number of people in the department, that would be taking apparatus out of service as well, like, 80-90% probability of that happening. Those are bad times. And so our commitment, just like yours is these positions, and the contract commits us to do those. And I think that's the cornerstone of the deal that we're making here.
So this staffing proposal ends up being a 5-year agreement, right? Because it goes from fiscal year until fiscal year 2030.
Yeah, we did leave that in.
This is the original 5-year proposal. We are willing to do a 4-year just by dropping off the E.
Okay. So, okay.
We're still willing to do 5, but we understand that you want to do 4, and you think that's what you want to take to your members, and that's fine with us. So our current proposal under a 4-year is everything on here except E. That's how you get 41 additional suppression positions during the 4-year term.
Okay. I mean, we're definitely going to have a counter on this one. I don't know any other way to say it on this one. I mean, we're back to square one on this one completely. There's no additional people the first year. So I'm trying to, I guess, just kind of help me understand the process here. Looking at the budget proposals for the last 5 years, 4-person staffing on the trucks has always been in that plan. And then when we got collective bargaining, that was changed. What's the thought process behind? At what point did the 4 on the truck not become important?
I can elaborate on that a little bit. A couple years ago is when we implemented the additional admin staffing, before collective bargaining came along. The second year of my 3-year proposal was the additional fourth position on the remaining 3 trucks. That's in fiscal year 26, 27. Those 14 would get you the 4th firefighter on the remaining 3 trucks at a 1.5 ratio. So that's still in the plan that I've shared with y'all all these years, and that's still in the plan right now. And then it moves on from there, and we capture those other stations and apparatus in 14 the next year, 13 and 13.
Okay, and then,
And it's my understanding that the department plan predated the collective bargaining initiative.
so I'm looking at, the fiscal year 21, 22 proposal, 23, 24. I can't find, there's 1 year that's unavailable on the city website. But we've consistently been looking for the 4 on the trucks. And like I said, that priority has shifted, which I get it. I mean, need more people downtown admin. We're not arguing against that. But again, this article doesn't address what the language we put in there. That was people on equipment. What we're trying to do is set a minimum number of people on shift every day. This, again, the way this is written is the civil service personnel can be used anywhere. They can be used in dispatch, they can be used in training, they can be used wherever. The way this is written right now doesn't put bodies in seats like our proposal did. And I'm willing to modify our proposal a little bit.
Well,
But-
I think we're willing to modify this proposal to make sure that it's clear that what you want is an assurance that the personnel that we're adding in the second, third, and fourth year of a 4-year deal are going to be dedicated to apparatus.
So it's not just
Right.
it's not just that when I look at this. What we're looking at on here is no additional people in the field year 1. You guys have already committed to putting people in administration, which us asking for 4-person staffing was no surprise to anybody in this room. It wasn't a surprise to any citizens at all when we ran the election. So here's what I'm looking at. How do I sell this to the members? Because the way it stands right now is we've changed our work hours policy. We've changed the overtime, productive time, sick leave. And, you know, we haven't even got to it yet, but now we're talking about potentially losing an assistant chief position. So we have, the way this article is written right now is we're giving up a number of items, and I don't believe we have captured any progress on our end at all. I mean, and that's what my members are going to see. If we take this to them as it's written right now, the way the contract's written right now, I can guarantee you it's going to get voted down. I mean, that's just where we're at. Like, and again, this is no surprise to anybody. What we told our members, we told the voters, and we told the city when we met with them, we had 3 goals: capture our progress, improve efficiency, and come up with a plan for 4-person staffing. I believe we've improved efficiency a little bit on the civil service side. We've made progress there. We have not captured current city practice, especially with the sick leave thing, which caused all sorts of other, chain reaction of issues. And now I have to go to them and tell them, hey, you've been looking for 4 firefighters on a truck for forever, 7 or 8 years now. You're not getting that this year. Hey, just, they're committed to doing it the second or third year, except there's a funding obligations article that could potentially get them out of increasing staffing. So the only thing we have secured from how we've currently operated for the last 20 years on the base budget was the 80th percentile in pay. And the way that one stands right now, with some departments looking at 24/72s, for example, that 80th percentile probably ain't going to quite be the bite it used to be. Several of those departments are talking about pay freezes so they can get more staffing that are in our comparison cities. So we're even kind of rolling the dice on keeping that one the way it is. But we came in here, copied and pasted, consistent to what we've been saying. And it seems like everything we've proposed has some sort of counter or caveat that reduces what we currently have. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, right now, we have less than we did before we started. How do I sell that to the members?
I don't see that you have less than you did
Well,
before you started,
s-
because what you had when you started was every year in the budget cycle, everything was up for grabs, and the incremental progress was never guaranteed. This is a proposal that, to the extent that the city doesn't have an unanticipated fall-off in revenues, commits to accomplish these additional apparatus personnel in 4 years. 41 additional people, not maybe next year, but 3 years in a row, that growth in people on apparatus.
Yeah,
And the only thing the city has asked for is that if the projected revenues that are behind this contract end up being less than we projected them to be, then we can adjust incrementally.
well, they've also asked us to take sick leave out of productive time worked. We had to fight to keep Kelly days in there. Like, you get what I'm saying, where we're coming from? Like, we are, when we go to the members and tell them this is what it is, it's less than they had 6 months ago. And I get the staffing thing, the heartburn over the staffing. Again, I'm fully prepared to pull staffing, pull it off the table, and codify and capture what we currently have. If this is the issue and the crux to everything else, we are willing to pull this off the table and secure and capture the progress we currently have. I mean, that's where we're at in this. I mean, I can't sell this to the members. I mean, there's no way. Especially, again, when they see the new proposed budget that came out, the police proposed 5 years. They're going to get 4 years. That's already in the proposed budget. They're funding for year 2, so they're doing 2 years in one. How do I sell that to the members? I mean, because the way it looks like to them right now, and I've heard it from other people, is it looks like us getting collective bargaining, going out there and winning that, we are now being punished because of that. And that's the perception.
So, explain that. I don't understand what you
Okay,
just said. How have you been punished by getting collective
So,
bargaining?
again, when we go back to the members, we have less than what we had when we started. All we have is the idea that the staffing may be there in 2 years.
It's a contract commitment for the staffing to be there.
But there's an out in that, right?
There's
No,
a, there's not an out.
Well,
If you want to tell your members it's an out, well, I think you're not characterizing what it is. For a finance director to certify that we are 0.13 less than our projected revenue in this fiscal cycle, and to tell the city council, you should decide whether or not we reduce any of our contractual commitment by 0.13 or not, and the council gets to say, no, we're not going to, or, yes, we are, after hearing you and any other citizens that are interested in the issue. I wouldn't characterize that to my members that that's an out.
right, I'm not saying I'm going to characterize that to them. I'm saying that's what people can believe, and that's our job to educate them on that part. I get that
Fair
completely.
enough. I agree
But
with it the way you restated it.
Yeah, and you know, I think we were all in agreement with the funding obligations. You know, the way it was set up, we can come back to the table and discuss, you know, that if we needed to.
It was tended to be nothing more than a safety valve and not a way to crawfish out of this deal.
Totally get it. Again, it seems like everything we've done has been, again, I mean, I don't know any other way to word it than I already have, besides repeating myself. I mean, I would feel comfortable, and I think our members would feel comfortable just taking the staffing off the table and using copied and pasted city policy for everything else. That's already built in the base budget. If the concern is funding and funding obligations for staffing, then pull it off the table. That takes the concern away. And every year, council can review and look at the budget and determine on an annual basis if they have the funding for it or not. But I mean, I don't know any other way to word it.
Okay?
Like, I don't think we're gonna get this ratified as it sits. I just don't.
All right. So where would you like to go from here? That's basically inviting us to go back and revisit the cornerstone under the building, so.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what I'm comfortable doing, I mean, is coming back with this off the table and copying and pasting city policy like we initially proposed and going from there.
Okay.
I mean,
So what else can we accomplish today? Because that's not something we can get you an answer for
Yeah.
today.
Oh, yeah,
in the
no,
next 20 minutes before I have to
know.
leave. So.
Yeah, I know that part. I mean, I don't really have questions on much of the other stuff. Again, you know, I mean, I know the only other thing we haven't discussed is the appointed positions, but again, that kind of falls into everything. I'm gonna go tell the members you're not getting any staffing, you're gonna lose this potential career advancement and development. Yeah, I'm trying to process it. But as far as today goes, I don't know if there's anything else on my end to go over. I mean,
Okay.
we'll look at the investigations. I think you guys said you had one. Okay. We'll look at the work hours, FLSA thing again on the 28-day.
Yeah.
And I think I have a solution for what you're saying. We can just put that mutual consent language in section 1 or something like that. So I think we can make that part work. And then, like I said, we'll look into the cert pay one a little bit, but I think that's about the gist of where we're at right now. As we come up with counters, I can kind of send you what I have. Kind of go from there. I mean, I think we're done for the day.
I'd like to throw out one thing before we finish.
Sure.
Something to think about, and I'm not arguing against anything you said, Brian, because I totally respect what you're saying. But let's think about when you say there's no career advancement, you're talking about 6, 7 battalion, 8 battalion chiefs that can't promote to an assistant chief, right? Because I'm going to appoint one. I want to appoint one. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the budget, you're getting a battalion chief position, 2 lieutenants.
I mean, I know we're getting.
There's several advancements there, so
Yeah.
I think rather than fighting for 7 or 8 for one position, you just advanced it for a whole lot more for a lot.
I get that part.
And one's going to be appointed, it's just not, I don't want it to be tested.
Yeah.
That's like saying the Dallas Cowboys are going to let Washington pick their quarterback. I got to have somebody on my team that I feel fits my team.
Yeah, and I think we've seen it in recent history. Some of the assistant chiefs end up going getting chief jobs somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe there is somebody that is looking for a chief job at some point that is able to test in that position. Now, for whatever reason, he ends up not being appointed. I mean, that's the end of it for him. So, and again, I mean, we're talking about 6 people or 8 people vying for one spot. I get that part.
Okay.
But again, it kind of plays into the entire picture of the contract, right?
Okay.
It's another thing we currently have that would go away. And that's what I'm getting at with the entire thing. So it's.
Well,
not just-
I would just caution you to at least look at what's on the table. Think about what you're willing to give up over whatever you're comparing it to. I understand you're wanting to look at it from the other perspective that you said from the get-go, from another department, but look at what's being put on the table before you just walk away and discuss, because nothing's guaranteed after this contract. If it's not signed, it's not guaranteed.
I
And
know that
then
part.
it gets political. I understand. You can work the politics. This side can work the politics. The number will own both of them. You know, so if Senate passes, the Senate bill passes, and we get restricted on funding, you may be out of the water on anything while you're sitting there watching the other departments get what they need. I'm just saying a bird in the hand is sometimes better than 2 in the bush, and I think you're going for 2 in the bush on this case. And rather than just push it away, come back with something that you really want and let us at least talk about it. Don't just say, okay, that's not enough, I'm pushing away, I'm done. So
I think the issue with that is, I mean, pretty much every single proposal, including what's been copy and pasted from policy, has been, in our opinion, and this may not be how people see it, but in our opinion, has been essentially ripped to shreds every single time. You know, do I propose counters to this just to get torn up again, right? I want to
okay.
come to an agreement. I mean,
understand.
we all put in the effort knowing that we wanted to come to an agreement. Like, there's no doubt about that. And I hope you guys have seen, we've put in a ton of effort on our side to try and make this work. But I'm trying to get something that sticks when we take it to the members. And right now, it's not going to stick.
I think one thing, Brian, we have to at least keep in mind for everybody is the timing. I mean, I think what our proposal is meant to reflect is a commitment the city manager has made, first and foremost, to the fire chief to get him the staffing that he feels like he needs this upcoming fiscal year. This city manager's proposed budget already went out to the mayor and council last Friday ago, on the 1st. And we have a budget meeting this week. And so I think if you're talking, I mean, what you all were looking at in the staffing proposal of implementing, starting an FY that's in a little more than 30 days from now, that is very difficult given where we are in the budget. If we were, 6 months ago having this conversation, maybe there was time to figure out the financing. But I think what we're trying to do in good faith, and I hope you all see it as that, is put forth a proposal that will get you the additional staffing. We've tried to add verbiage to make a commitment that would be for 4-person staffing, but to do it in a phased-in approach, as I think everybody knew would have to happen regardless. Understanding we maybe can't get to that this first year because of where we are with the budget schedule and the timeline, but there is a commitment to do that throughout the life of this contract. And so that, from our standpoint, we do feel like we are, trying to get to the full intention of achieving that, just maybe not in the exact time period you all wanted.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, looking at the way it sits right now, to me, it sounds like all problems are solved if there's no staffing thing in the contract, and we just secure we have, and council can make the decision as needed. And regarding, budgetary timeline, I think it's important to note on here was we expressed that we would be ready to go in March to start negotiating. We had to wait for IBB training, and then there were obviously elections that took place that caused a delay, and that's why we are where we are. But I mean, we could have started in March.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're
Right, now, I'm not casting fault at anybody on the
Right.
timeline, I'm just saying, given where we are today,
Yeah,
this is the reality.
yeah, I understand that. Like I said, I want to make it work. I'm gonna have to, we're gonna have to look at this and try and figure out a way to make it work. But again, I mean, I've got to take something palatable back to the members, and right now I don't think I have it. I don't have that. So, like I've expressed to you guys, the way the ratification process works for us, I mean, if it doesn't stick the first time, it may be another 3 months, or not 3 months, 6 weeks before we, ratify.
You don't think the Kelly Day thing is a big one to take back? That's a win for everybody. You haven't brought that up, so, you gotta remember, you have to remember that whether you have a contract or not doesn't guarantee you to keep violating FLSA law. So that could easily change without a contract.
Right.
So we're just saying, we're giving you a win here for all the members on the Kelly Day.
Right,
I want to echo the chief's comment about that, because it was not easy for him to get the, yes, we will keep your Kelly Day just like it is, intact.
Yeah.
Write it down, put it in writing, we're going to keep it, we're going to follow it. And we understand that a lot of your members feel like, well, so what? We already had that. But locking that in for 4 years, from a city management standpoint, is a very, very big
But
deal.
have we looked at the flip side? If we don't have Kelly days, the number of vacation spots we would have to have, the overtime that would be paid if somebody doesn't
Why
call
would we
in
look
sick.
at that when what you wanted was the Kelly Day schedule that you currently have? No, we haven't looked at that, because that's not what we've been talking about.
Right, so I think it kind of goes back to the original idea, if we're talking about capturing progress, and again, I think it was said several times, capturing what we have. I think the members would be comfortable with pulling the firefighter staffing and capturing what we currently have. If this is the hang up for everything else, that'd make it easy. I mean, that could have been, a 2-day deal.
We understand that. We'll go back, we'll talk about it, and we'll find out where we go from here. I
Yeah.
can't answer that question.
Yeah,
I don't have
and-
authority to answer that
Yeah,
question.
I'm not expecting you guys to. I think on our end, we've got some homework to do, really look at everything, look at the contract in its entirety and figure out, how we make it work. Like I said, none of us want to walk out of here without a contract. I think, I hope you see that from our side, that we're really trying to get something done. We've already agreed to some things I didn't think were going to come up, which is fine. But let us do our homework,
Okay.
look at this, and kind of go from there, I think.
Sounds good.
I got
We'll
one
be in
last
touch
thing.
tomorrow about scheduling.
Let me
the
say
next
one more
meeting.
thing about this staffing proposal that the city manager has given you. First of all, in the first sentence on here, it says for implementing 4-person staffing, okay? If you want that title, 4 firefighter staffing, we can do that. It's in the sentence there, that's what these positions are for. In addition, if you look at your proposal, you're asking for an increase of 3 in minimum staffing. 3 in minimum staffing in our world means 9, okay? He's giving you 14 right here.
Yeah, so
And the same each year thereafter. So he's actually giving you more than you're asking for in
We
your
are-
proposal.
our initial proposal for the minimum per year was 5. We came down to 3 to try and accommodate the budget a little bit.
Right.
But we're trying to make it work with the budget on that side. So we consciously lowered it. And like I said, when we laid it out, we were comfortable with, okay, depending on the length of the contract, maybe we don't get all that we were looking for in that term, which we were comfortable with. But we're trying to be cognizant of the city budget here, which is why we came down, like I said initially. So we are trying to make it work. I hope I'm not conveying the message that we're just throwing our hands up and calling it quits. I mean, because that's not the case at all.
Good.
We're
I'm planning on making a deal with y'all, period.
Yeah, we are trying to make this work. We just, like I said, give us time to look at the contract in its entirety, see what we can come up with. Maybe we can make something palatable to our members. I really think the city wants to come to an agreement also. I don't think we're far off, but there's just some sticking points we just have to cross, and we'll get it figured out.
I appreciate it. Let's
Yeah.
get Joe out of here.
The flight's delayed, so
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm good. See how that happens?
That's right. All right, I'm gonna have to head out myself.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Our
You wanna
next
talk
thing,
about
our
dates?
next thing is going to be scheduling the next meeting because the chief we won't be out of the next meeting until September 4th. According to Linda, she's looked at everyone's calendars who's available, and that would be the next time we'd be able to meet. So in
Okay.
the 15 days, we're going to lapse that time frame
Yeah,
as well.
let me look through, let me look through everything real quick and figure out, maybe there's something in there, on the city side that doesn't necessarily pertain to fire, where we can, get some stuff done. We don't have to agree to anything. You can always consult with him, after the fact, but maybe we can get something done in those 2 weeks. But, if not, I mean, it is what it is.
We can certainly work on some language exchanges and so forth, but we'll get together on a schedule.
Is there any work we can do in committee for the next meeting? I
There
mean,
may be.
maybe we can look at that.
Yep.
Is there anything on the grievance article? Because I'd hate, doesn't require necessarily the fire chief.
Yeah, we'd really like to see anything else that we need to be making decisions on the discipline and the grievance article.
Yeah.
We just focused on what we
Right.
just
Right.
talked about, so we hadn't really
I actually
looked at
think
that.
we have a deal on the grievance article
Yeah,
after
it
we
looks
talked
okay.
about that today.
You guys are okay with that?
So,
Okay.
Yeah, we'll look through that again, but I think
Okay.
we're okay with it. Really appreciate you pointing out mutual agreement in
Yep.
bold.
Yep.
That makes this a lot easier.
Do we want to send it on
not yet.
Not yet.
All right, thank you all. I'm gonna have to head out.